It's only been a moment with Jingliu, but a lot of different compositions have been explored, and these are the top 5 most exciting Jingliu teams for you to check out that are tailored for endgame content. So the first team I want to talk about is a bit experimental, but hey, it's certainly more exciting than the usual hyper carry comps. Now this comp is actually really interesting. It's made up of Jingliu, Yanqing, Gepard, and Silverwolf. Despite the lack of buffing, Jingliu still puts out a ton of damage, while Yanqing is busy dishing out single target damage. And what's really cool about this team is that you don't see that many ice comps in the game, and it actually works super well in places like the simulated universe, because you don't need to care that much about sustainability, even though Gepard can put in a ton of work for the team. However, I do like to call this team the risky mono ice comp because of Yanqing. The name of the game is to not let Yanqing get hit, since he is so much more powerful when his Soul Steel Sync is active. Obviously, you put him onto a separate corner from Gepard, maybe also give Gepard Lando's Choice Light Cone, and then pray to RNG Yanqing doesn't get hit by sweep attacks. Now, you also might be thinking, doesn't Jingliu actually work against Yanqing due to her enhanced skill siphoning HP from her teammates? Not really, it works just fine. Yanqing can lose health from Jingliu's skill, and even when he is shielded, he still manages to retain his Soul Steel Sync. Now, in terms of variations, you can actually drop Silverwolf and replace her either with Pela or March 7th. This way, you'll have a true mono ice team, but I do prefer Pela if Gepard can handle the tanking, since then all enemies will get a defense shred, which is invaluable for boosting the 2 main damage dealers. Keep in mind, when I'm discussing a true mono ice comp here, I'm assuming the hardest enemies will be weak to ice. Oh, and for those of you who actually use Herta, she's pretty good when farming together with Jingliu. Not as good as with Himiko, since Jingliu's auto combat is atrocious to say the least, but hey, it still gets the job done. Overall, I would say this team is going to be exciting for those who like to take risks and want to bring out some less popular units into combat. And yes, I am talking about Yanqing, once a king of the meta in 1.0, now barely scraping by for attention. I see you, Yanqing, my sweet, brittle damage dealer. Hey, so, sorry, I thought I misheard you. You said you want a Wel Team showcase, right? Well, lucky for you, I have just a comp made up of Jingliu, Welt, Pela, and a healer. You'd think this team is pretty nonsensical, but guess again. There's actually quite a lot of synergy going on. First of all, due to Jingliu's ability to freeze the enemies before the fight, Welt nicely integrates into this whole combo by unleashing his attacks that can both slow and imprison enemies. Having less to deal with so he can focus on putting out damage is great here, since even if Welt is not built with effect hit rate, he can still land his debuffs most of the time. Although I personally like to mix up his stats so that he can dish out those slows and imprisonments with a guarantee. And because the team thrives on slowing down the enemies, it becomes pretty clear why it's good thanks to Jingliu's splash attacks, which she can cause both with her enhanced skill and ultimate. You'd be amazed how annoying those smaller enemies are if they're not dealt with. So Welt and Jingliu can quickly dispatch them while they're slowed, and then you can focus on the big bad bosses. Now, as always, some changes can be made to the team comp. For example, instead of Pela, you can use Bronya or Silverwolf, or if you want to get some extra HP and crit rate, Fushuan can work here as well. And if it's not the final Swarm Disaster level, she can keep the team sustained by herself. And even Yukong can be introduced into this team, although if she's not E6, then you'll need her to be faster than Jingliu, since one of the 2 bowstring stacks will be wasted on just Jingliu entering into her spectral transmigration. But the remaining one can be utilized by both the enhanced skill and the ultimate, since, as you know it, the ultimate doesn't take up a turn. I think this team is pretty fascinating when it comes to the same old damage dealer comps, and it's not the first time Welt can be utilized in a unique way. Despite all the praise and insane thumbnails about Jingliu, there are a few problems that require attention. First of all, because she siphons 4% HP of the other 3 teammates when she uses her enhanced skill, it actually quickly adds up and becomes a sustainability problem that you need to work around, unless the fights are really short. Then there's enemies who can mess up your rotations if somebody, especially if it's a buffer, become crowd controlled and they cannot help Jingliu unleash her full power, which is something that I've talked about in Welt's team showcase. And of course, there's also the fact she works best with premium 5-star units in the game like Luocha, Bronya, and Silverwolf. Although, honestly, most of these problems are really just as applicable to any other damage dealer. But there is a free-to-play team that can address all of this, which is made up of Jingliu, Fire Trailblazer, Asta, and Lynx. I know. Fire Trailblazer's paper-thin shields aren't the best when it comes to sustainability, but just like Jingliu's HP drain, it adds up over time. Now also, throw in Asta into the mix, and you've got some great speed and attack boosting. To top it off, Lynx can provide some healing over time, give Fire Trailblazer or Jingliu aggro boost, and even cleanse some of those annoying debuffs with her ultimate. And let's not forget this team shines the best against fire weak enemies, so we can get that awesome damage boost against broken enemies with Jingliu. And sure, this team won't even come close to damage potential that you could otherwise achieve with a hyper carry or double damage dealer comp. However, I've seen quite a few reports that it is a bit hard to stay alive when playing Jingliu, unless you have Luocha on the team. You see, Natasha, Bailu, and Lynx are pretty much inferior compared to Luocha when it comes to healing effectively Jingliu teams. But I don't think you should be discouraged from playing her just because you lack that one unit. And even as a free-to-play team, there are still variations you can go for. Replace Lynx with any other healer, replace Asta with Pela or Yukong if you obtain her from the previous event. I mean, it's not that hard to just double down on staying alive and letting Jingliu do her own thing. All in all, I would say for those who still want to clear Forgotten Hall and believe that there's no free-to-play friendly team to build with her, well, you can take a look at this one. This next team is a bit premium. Well, okay, it's totally premium, because you'll need 3 or 4 5 stars to achieve it, but the payoff is super worth it. In one of my older Blade videos, I mentioned he works well in double damage dealer comps, and this team is all about it. Basically, Jingliu, Blade, Bronya, and Luocha is probably one of the best things if you love witnessing amazing synergy between units. So, what's so amazing about it? Well, first of all, the dreadful 4% HP drain from Jingliu is annoying to deal with, but for Blade, more power to him. Yes, he actually gains a stack from this, so anytime Jingliu does her enhanced skill, Blade gains a stack, and often, together with Bronya, this will result in multiple stacks within one cycle. So even if he doesn't get buffed by Bronya, he can still unleash his talent damage much faster than usual. But what's even better, Jingliu without her special state hits like a wet noodle, so while she is busy building up her own 2 stacks, Bronya can easily boost Blade for 1 turn, and this becomes better if you can time it just right for his enhanced basic, ultimate, and then talent combo. Now, this all sounds very expensive, and I'm not talking about Stellar Jades, although that also applies, but what I am talking about would be the expensive skill point economy, or so you would think. See, the thing is, Blade only needs 1 SP every 3 turns. Jingliu only needs SP when you need to build back her 2 stacks, and that only really leaves Bronya, who mindlessly eats away 1 SP with her skill. But with her signature light cone that you can get from the Starlight store and the first Eidolon if possible, it actually becomes much more manageable. If you don't have those, then Luocha comes to the rescue thanks to his amazing healing. It's going to be a rare situation where you actually need to press the skill button when it's Luocha's turn, and instead he will auto-heal and do that one-time skill heal when Blade falls below 50%, which will be the most common scenario. But the thing is, while the team is made up of 4 5 stars, the synergy is legit insane, and there's still room left for improvement, especially if a buffer comes out that can boost both Blade and Jingliu. So yeah, this team is super premium, but at the same time, super synergetic. Now of course, how could we forget the hyper carry comps with Jingliu? Honestly, not much is different here compared to other damage dealers. Bronya and Tingyun along with a healer or sustainer like Fushuan still reign supreme, although I will say that a comp with Pela feels really good because when facing off a single encounter, you can actually use all 4 techniques since Jingliu's technique remains active even when you switch her out. And since Pela's technique requires her to start the fight, you can see here how this ends up working out nicely. I'm not gonna lie, the fact that I need to start fights with Imbibitor Lune or Blade is a bit annoying, since they could miss out on things like Silverwolf's technique, and then you have to pick which one is better, while Jingliu can just chill in the backline and still unleash her technique, which is super important when it comes to maintaining the tempo in the fights, since that first stack for her is crucial. But yeah, one of these hypercarry teams you're looking at right now is of course working super well for Jingliu, and I'm actually surprised to see how flexible she is, despite the fact that she's just another damage dealer. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd really appreciate it if you could press the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.